that as you enter any new age, you see, one of the things that's so important is for everyone to bring their focus together. Now, that will not happen across the board in any kind of a 100% ratio. What happens, of course, is that it seems like a good idea to help people. Now, that is an Aquarian ideal. And the conjunction that happened just at the solstice time, and the movement of the planet into these air signs that are signs of ideas, that are signs of actually communicating with people, not just sending them a text to tell them what you've got to say and that's it. That's not communication. That may be dumping some information, but it's not communication. Communication is a two-way street where people explore something with each other. They want to know what each other thinks, and they want to see how they can maybe come together and do something. So just dumping texts on people of opinions is not communication. So that's not really an Aquarian value. That is one of the lower vibrations of Piscean values. And again, it's the domination theme. It's not all of what the age of Pisces was about. Clearly, there were a lot of good ideas in that time as well that have brought you and the world into a state of technological wonder, space exploration. And the beauty, these great telescopes that can peer into dark space and find things to look at, galaxies perhaps, that are so exquisitely beautiful, or fields of colored gases wandering through the universe. This is quite remarkable, isn't it? And it tells you something, or should, about yourself, because you are made in the image of the consciousness that created all of that. Indeed, you participated with it, but that part is maybe a little harder for some of you to grasp. Maybe in the Aquarian age, that will happen. As we look at what is right before us, however, I think there's a lot of work to be done, and you can only start with your own self first. Now, as a spiritual teacher, and I watch my students, and I watch other people too, who are not necessarily connected to me, but I watch the wave of shared consciousness that ripples through the conventional reality. And some of what I see is very interesting. Many people are very angry about what happened in Washington, and that, I think, is totally understandable. This energy comes up of being insulted in this way. Plus, people feel violated, even if they weren't in Washington, when they see what happened on the steps of their capital. As Francie said, she was very, very connected to this country. There is a love, and most people feel that love for their own country. And to see that kind of violation brings up protective energy, and often connected to that is a kind of anger, an indignation that this could happen. And I know there are those who are quick to criticize people who get angry. I'm not so quick to criticize this because I think it's natural. If you see someone harming your parents, would you just sit there and meditate? Or would you get up and go try to protect them? I hope the latter. Would you put yourself in harm's way to protect your parents? I hope so. Or even a neighbor down the street whom you may not know very well. But if you see someone breaking into their home, would you not do something to help? I hope so. And so we have to be very careful about how we make up what the role of the spiritual teachers are, what the role even of humanity is. When you think about it, this idea has always been a part of the basis for the United States, that it is in order to create a more perfect union. In other words, it's an acknowledgement, even in the legal documents that form this country, it is an acknowledgement that it will never reach perfection, but if we can just get a more perfect union. Now, many of you kind of feel that way about your life and your spiritual development, you see. To be a little more perfected tomorrow than I am today, or maybe stay with today, to be a little more perfected in my faith, in my practice, in my bodhicitta, in the compassion I share to the world, to be a little more perfect today than I was yesterday. And that's really quite noble. And I use the word noble in the same way that the Buddha used it. Whenever he called something noble, such as the Four Noble Truths, he designated something special by that word. He didn't mean noble in sense of what is earthly nobility, which has to do with monarchies and so on and so forth. He was speaking of noble in a different sense. When he used the word noble, he only used it when he was referring to something that would take people to enlightenment. So a noble truth is one that once realized opens one in a greater way to their enlightenment. And so here we are at a time when so much is possible for the earth. And my dear friends, so much is in the way. I sometimes tell my students, and many of you have kind of grappled with this and not knowing whether to believe it or not. But you see, the greater the potential for enlightenment, the greater the potential for endarkenment.